Hello everyone, welcome to the NFL Contest Show. It's week 9 of the NFL season, and that means we've made it to the midpoint. We're doing pretty good in the contest up till this point. Week 8, we ended up going 4-1, so it was a really positive week. Right now, the season total sitting at 26-14, so that has us tied for 150th place, so just outside the money, as the top 100 places are what get paid. But it's awfully early in the season to be overly concerned about the end of the year. The end of the second quarter is also coming to a close, though, and barring a miracle, I don't think I'm going to finish in the money in the second quarter, even with some of the positive weeks that we've had. We also had a losing one, and that kind of took us out of the running. So this will be the last week of week 2. Week 10 will be going into the third quarter, so I'll be looking forward to that. But week 9, this is probably the toughest week of the NFL season because there's only 13 games total, with 6 teams having to bye. And since I don't use the Thursday night games for the contest because of having to submit all 5 picks at once, that really only leaves 12 games to choose from. And we've really got some crazy matchups this week, some really tough games to try to pick through. So this week I'm kind of leaning more towards just playing more of a contest strategy. So although I do believe in these picks, I would tread lightly. If you do plan on betting any of these games, I wouldn't go, I wouldn't bet my whole bankroll on them. But, I do like these games. It's just this week's really tough. Again, with only 12 games to choose from for the contest. And some of these matchups, they've really, with the lines that they've put out at around 3.5, and then we've got some bigger ones at over a touchdown. You really got to decide which side you like. So, me, if I think a team's going to cover the spread, I think they're going to win. So I picked 5 games that I think these teams will win. And, I also want to play the contest strategy a little bit. So it's week 9. Let's get into it and see which 5 games I like for this week. So the first game that I like is the Minnesota Vikings -3 going to Washington to take on the Commanders. I'm just a big fan of the Minnesota Vikings. I've been, high on this team all season. They've been good to me up to this point. They covered the spread last week, and a lot of people in the public, they're not giving them a lot of credit because they're winning one-score games, but this is a team last year that was losing those one-score games. I think they lost like 7 games by a touchdown or less. So they're one of the best teams in the fourth quarter, which last year they were one of the worst teams in the fourth quarter. So everything's flipped on this Minnesota Vikings team, and I just really like the direction that they're going in. The defense, they're good enough, and the offense, they've got a lot of weapons. And now, even though they lost Irv Smith, the management went out and got T.J. Hockenson from the Lions, and I actually think he's an upgrade when it comes to the passing game because he's a better receiver than Irv Smith. So I really like this move for the Vikings. And again, I don't think the public's really giving them a lot of respect, particularly going up against a Washington football team, the Commanders, that, they've won their last 3 games and covered the spread, but they've had to pull out some dramatic last-second miracles to win those games. And if you look at the stats for their team on offense, they're really not that good. Heineke, he's scrappy and all that, but I just think they're getting a little bit too much credit for some of these wins. Now, Washington's defense, particularly their defensive front, is good. They can stop the run. They can get after the quarterback without blitzing. So that's always a concern, but I just don't think they faced a team with the caliber of offense that this Minnesota Vikings team has, particularly with their run game. And again, with, Jefferson and Thielen, Osborne, and now Hockenson, I just really think this team is going in the right direction, and I don't think they're getting enough credit for being 6-1. People want to talk about they have an easy schedule, but the Philadelphia Eagles have also had a pretty easy schedule. So, if you're going to say they're good, you got to give the Vikings credit also. And then this goes back to that thing that I said that I always say is if I think a team's going to win, then I think they're going to cover. I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to win this game, so I think they're going to cover. So for my first pick, give me the Minnesota Vikings -3. So the second game that I like is the New Orleans Saints +2.5 at home taking on the Baltimore Ravens. This is another team that's, they've got a losing record, but they're a lot better than their record shows. With the Saints, they had a tough start to the season, but Andy Dalton's really starting to play better. He's gelling with these receivers. They're getting some chemistry now that he's been the starting quarterback, and I think he's been named the starting quarterback going forward. So he doesn't have to be looking over his shoulder at Jameis Winston if they're going to pull him or not. And I think it's really helped his confidence, which is helping his play. It doesn't hurt to have a guy like Alvin Kamara, who the last couple of weeks has looked like the stud running back / receiver that we've known him to be. And I really just like the way the Saints offense is looking. They're using Taysom Hill in different packages, which really throws the other defenses off. And I just like the way they're using him. I think it's definitely they're picking in their spots when he's should have success, and they've been having success up to this point. Meanwhile, the Saints defense is just playing lights out the last couple of weeks. I mean, they actually shut out the Raiders last week, and they should be getting Marshawn Lattimore back, which is going to just make this defense that much better. And going up against a team like the Ravens, you've got to worry about Lamar Jackson not only throwing the ball, but obviously running around and using his legs and gaining yards on the ground. But I think with the way the Saints defense is playing, they'll be able to keep him in the pocket, not let him get too loose and, bust off some of those long runs that we've seen him do in the past. And the Ravens offense right now they're starting to have that injury bug like they had last year. I don't know if Andrews is going to play or not, but he hasn't practiced up to this point. They lost Rashad Bateman for the season. I think all three of their running backs are either injured or on the injury report. So, I mean, it's just, they're starting to suffer injuries on the offensive side of the ball. And when you're going up against a defense like the New Orleans Saints, you need to have your best players out there if you're going to be successful. I know the Saints can put up points, so this could be a shootout. I could definitely see this game going over the total, but I just like the Saints at home getting points against a non-conference team. I just think this sets up well for them. And again, if I think they're going to cover the spread, I think they're going to win outright. I'll bet the money line on this game. I wouldn't even take the points. So getting 2.5, that's just a bonus. So for my second pick, give me the New Orleans Saints +2.5. So the third game that I like is the Arizona Cardinals -2 at home taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I'm sure everybody out there is like, what are you thinking? The Cardinals at home, they're terrible against the spread. The Seahawks taking on NFC West teams are good against the spread. They're good against the spread against the Cardinals. But everybody's on the Seahawks. Everybody. And the Seahawks have been good to me up to this point. I've been on them 3 times in the contest. They've won all 3, but I've also faded them twice, and they've lost both of those games. They failed to cover both of those games. So I think I have a good read on the Seattle team. And, if you look at the game last week, if not for those 2 special team fumbles that basically gave them 14 points, that game could have gone either way. So, they won against the Broncos earlier in the season on 2 fumbles at the goal line. I mean, they've been playing good football, but they've also had a lot of luck on their side. And I think with the Arizona Cardinals, the last couple of weeks when they've had DeAndre Hopkins, his offenses look totally different. I mean, they've actually scored points in the first half, which was amazing. You know what I mean? They were already the better second half team, particularly in the fourth quarter. But now if they're putting points up in the first half, they're just that more dangerous. And the defense is playing well. I mean, we've seen them have their ups and downs. They've gotten gashed on the ground a few times, but the defense is pretty good. And DK Metcalf seems to always struggle whenever he plays the Arizona Cardinals. And Buda Baker's, I think he's one of the keys to that. and he's on the injury report, so I certainly want to keep my eyes on that and see if he's going to play or not. But as much as I want the Arizona Cardinals to win this game at home, this is also just one of those plays that I don't think is going to be very popular in the contest at all. I mean, if you look at the betting market, it's almost like 80% bets on the Seahawks, and it's like 90% of the money is on the Seahawks. And yet the line's not moving off of 2. Like, they haven't moved it up to 3 or moved it down to a pick 'em or anything like that. Like, it's stuck at 2. So I think Vegas, the people who make these lines, they know what they're doing, and they're trying to tempt people into taking the Seahawks. And I just think this is the moment for the Cardinals to win this game at home and get their season going in the right direction after, they lost last week on the road to the Vikings. So, I mean, tread lightly with this one. I could certainly see the argument for the Seahawks if you wanted to say that the Seahawks are the right side on this one. Again, this is almost as much of a contest play as anything else. So I'm just fading what I think is going to be a very popular pick in the contest and hoping that the Arizona Cardinals were able to pull it out at home. So for my third pick, give me Arizona -2. So the fourth game is the Las Vegas Raiders -1.5 going down to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Again, this is basically another fade of a team that's or betting on a team that's very unpopular right now, and that's the Las Vegas Raiders after they got shut out last week by the New Orleans Saints. But for one thing, the New Orleans Saints defense is really good, but I also think the Raiders, with the way their practice schedule was leading up to that game, I think it really affected the offense. If you watched that game, you saw they didn't even cross the 50-yard line till the fourth quarter. But, Devontae Adams was out all week because he was sick. Renfrow didn't practice because he was banged up. Josh Jacobs didn't practice because his foot was injured. Collins didn't really practice because his heel was injured. And it showed. They did not play well at all, and they got manhandled by the New Orleans Saints. But now I think they're taking on this Jaguars team that I'm done with them. I've bet on them 3 times this season, and all 3 times they've led in the fourth quarter, and they've lost the game. And I'm sure you're going to hear this multiple times throughout the week, but a team playing in London and then having to play the next week without a bye, 9 out of 9 times has either been tied or behind in the fourth quarter of that following game. And what do we know about the Jaguars? They're the worst team in the NFL in the fourth quarter. So I just have no faith in this team, and I really expect the Raiders to come out and play a lot better than they did last week. They stayed in Florida after playing in New Orleans. They went to Tampa, and they're staying there, so they're kind of sequestered away from home. So they've got nothing but time and practice to think about the fact that they just got shut out last week. And I just think the Raiders are a much better team than the performance they put up, and I expect them to come out and play a lot better. The Jacksonville Jaguars, again, their defense is starting to backslide from the way they were earlier in the season. Pretty sure they lead the league in missed tackles, so we could definitely see the Raiders pull away at the end of this game. And with it being such a low spread, it's basically pick the team you think's going to win, and they should end up covering the spread. And I think Vegas is the better team. I think they're the more veteran team, and I think they're the much more motivated team with the way they were, the way they were embarrassed last week. And I think Jacksonville, they still haven't learned how to win close games. So I'm just going with the Raiders. I also think this is going to be an unpopular side. I don't even think this game will be very popular, but I don't think there's going to be many people picking the Raiders after they got shut out last week. So for my fourth pick, give me the Las Vegas Raiders -1.5. So my fifth and final game is the Green Bay Packers -3.5 going to Detroit to take on the Lions. Well, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have been on a 3-game losing streak. Not something you often see from Aaron Rodgers-led team. And I just think that this is the game where they get back on the winning path. What do we know about the Lions? Their offense has been pretty good. They can put points on the board. but their defense is one of the worst in the league, particularly against the pass. So if there was ever a game where Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good game, it's going to be against the Detroit Lions defense. Now, it looks like Allen Lazard might play, but Christian Watson probably won't. But he's still got Dobbs. He's still got Sammy Watkins. They still got Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So I think Green Bay's offense, they found something last week against Buffalo where they were able to put up almost 200 yards on the ground. And I think that's going to help open up the play action for Aaron Rodgers, especially against this weak Detroit passing defense. The Lions, I mean, they're great in the first half, but they are terrible in the second half of games. And I mean, even though the Green Bay Packers have been on this losing streak, their defense has not been terrible. They haven't really been able to generate too many turnovers. So I think they might get a few against Jared Goff. He's prone to fumble the ball, and he's prone to throw interceptions, particularly at the end of the game when that pass rush finally starts to wear down on him. And I think that's something we might see this week, and it could be the difference in Green Bay being able to cover this spread. Now, it's 3.5, so I am a little cautious with it, because I've already been backdoored by the same Detroit team when they covered against the Eagles week 1. But I just have faith in Green Bay. I believe they're going to win this game. And if I believe they're going to win, then I got to believe they're going to cover the spread. And that's just the way I'm going with it. And again, with Green Bay being on a 3-game losing streak, I don't think this is going to be a very popular game or a very popular side in the contest. So I'm also looking to try to snag another point in a game where not a lot of people are going to have much interest. So there's just a couple of reasons to go with the Green Bay Packers. And again, this is a contest pick as much as it is a betting side. So again, just be aware of that. So for my 5th and final pick, give me the Green Bay Packers minus 3.5. So those are my 5 contest picks for Week 9 of the NFL season. If I make any changes, I'll be sure to post them in the comments below. You can also head on over to Instagram and follow Dead Money Media, where I normally post the contest parlay on Sunday morning. So if I make any changes, it will be part of the contest parlay that I post on Sundays as well. But I always post in the comments normally before Saturday when these picks are due, when I have to make my final decision. But head on over to deadmoneymedia.com if you haven't already and subscribe to the email. You can also check out our merch store and pick something up and help support the channel. As I'm doing this for free, I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. But now it's time for the contest show parlay for Week 9. So the picks are the Minnesota Vikings minus 3, the New Orleans Saints money line plus 120, the Arizona Cardinals minus 2, the Las Vegas Raiders minus 1.5, and the Green Bay Packers minus 3.5. Put those 5 teams in a parlay and it comes out to just under 2,700. So just around 2,700, 27 to 1. That'd be a nice payout heading into the holiday season. Put a little extra money in our pockets, maybe for a Thanksgiving trip or for those Christmas gifts that you want to get that person for somebody. So hopefully we can hit it. We've been really close this year. I think we've had 4 in 1 week. So I mean, right there. And one of them, it was the final game, so there was an opportunity to hedge. So that was nice. But I'm glad we're at the middle of the season. I'm glad everybody's been following along up to this point. Hopefully we can continue the success that we've had up to this point. It's only going to get harder from here, but I'm up for the challenge. But to everybody out there, I hope you make a lot of money. I hope you win all your bets, and thanks for watching.